We're beginning the Sefer Shmos. Ve'elu Shmos b'nei Yisrael habo Mitzrayim. And these are the names of the Bnei Yisrael who are coming to Egypt. Eis Yaakov, Ishu Beisabo. They had come, Eis Yaakov. Each person with his family had come. So the first question is, what is the Vav? The Vav in the Hebrew language is always a connecting letter. We finish the Sefer Bereshis, the book of creation, Ve'ele, and these are the names. It should begin, Eile Shmos, these are the names of Bnei Yisrael who came to Egypt. So there's a Nitziv, the Rav Naftali Yehuda Berlin, in his work, Hamik Dover, his commentary on Chumash, in his introduction, cites a number of positions on how the first Sefer is referred to and how the second Sefer is referred to. He cites the Ramban, Nachmanides, refers to the first Sefer as Sefer HaBriyah, the book of creation, and the second book is Sefer HaGeula, the book of redemption. However, he cites Rav Haigon, who explains that the first Sefer is referred to as Sefer Rishon, and the second Sefer is called Sefer Sheni. The first book and the second book, and the third is called Vayikra, Bamidbar, and Dvorim. Leviticus, Numbers, and Dvorim, Mishnah Torah. So he explains, he asks, according to the Ramban, we understand the reason why he's referring to the first Sefer as Briyah, it's to explain what exactly is contained within it. Sefer HaBriyah, the book of redemption, Leviticus, Numbers, and Mishnah Torah, the repeat of the Torah. But according to Rav Haigon, if 3, 4, and 5 are identified by what's contained within the books, why are the first two referred to by number 1 and 2? That's the question he asks. So he goes to explain that, as we say, the objective of creation lies where? In the first 3 words of the Torah, Bereshis Bara Elokim. Those words are the code words. Why did God create existence? As Rashi cites the Chazal, Bishvil Torah Shenikras Reishis, Bishvil Yisro Shenikras Reishis. Why did God create existence? For the sake of the Torah, which is referred to as Bereshis, as the choicest, and Klal Yisrael, which is the chosen among all the nations, because we are the only nation who has relevance to the Torah. It's the book of redemption, the second book. First book is the book of creation. But where do we see, regarding the reference, that the objective is for redemption, and redemption has relevance for the sake of receiving Torah at Sinai? So Rav Haigon is saying, book 1 is chapter 1. Book 2 is chapter 2. That's the chapter. The objective of 1 is 2. But so by referring to them by number, 1, 2, by referring to them by content, the book of creation, the book of redemption, it's not as obvious to bring out this point that it's the objective. But by referring to 1 and 2, meaning this is the beginning and this is the second book, it's a continuation of the first. It's not each one independent of the other. God happened to create a world, and now we talk about the Jews going into bondage, and there's a redemption. The creation, the book creation, its value is only the second book, because ultimately there's going to be a Gula. And whatever transpired in the first book, in terms of the Ovos HaKadoshim, the patriarchs, we say Mas Ovosim Lebanim, as Chazal tell us, that the experiences of the patriarchs are an indication of the future for the children. That is made more obvious by referring to the second book as the second and the first as the first. That's the Nitziv and that's the connecting Vav, Ve'ele. And that, in Hebrew, Vav is the connecting letter, the first book and the second book. That's the Netziv. Over here, the Balaturim, he explains, Shmos b'nei Yisrael haboim. If you take the first letter of each of those words, it spells the word Sheviyah. In Hebrew, the word Shevi is captive. That although we went to Egypt, we were captives. Initially, it was through our own initiative. We went there because Yaakov had gone there. But we know that the reason why Chazal tells, why do we merit redemption, although we became idolaters in Egypt? Why were we able to be extricated and freed from that shviyah, from that captivity? So, because of Shloshinu Shonam, Malbushim Ushmam. Because they did not change their names, their attire, and their language. So that's Shmos, Eila Shmos, that even though you're captives and ultimately through acculturation, becoming slaves, you lose your identity and you assimilate, these are the names that because they retain their identity, the Shmos, the names which were the names given to them by Yaakov and by their families, despite their behavior, but in terms of their essence, what they were, the name identifies what the essence of a person is. So therefore, although it's Shviyah, but it's Shmos. Eila Shmos b'nei Yisrael haba b'tzroima. Eis Yaakov bon of Bo. Together with Yaakov, it doesn't say Yaakov Ishu Beis Bo. Eis Yaakov. If you take a look at the end of the portion of Vayigash, when Yaakov came to Egypt, not the beginning, not at the end, in the middle of the portion, it says, Yaakov came to Egypt with his children. It says, Yaakov Eisbonov. It says, Yaakov Ubonov Ito. Yaakov came, Ubonov Ito. Ubnei Bonov Ito. And Yaakov and his grandchildren came with him. Benos Bonov Ito. And again, his granddaughters with him. His sheep, his flocks, Ito. And all of them came Ito. There's a continuous reiteration of the word Ito. What exactly is the Torah? We know how careful the Torah is not to state an extra letter. And here the word Ito is continuous. Yaakov ubonov Ito. Yaakov b'nei bonov Ito. Yaakov b'nei benos bonov Ito. Yaakov and his flocks and his herds, Ito. And all that came to Egypt came with him. What is it all about? We find that when Yosef revealed himself to his father, he said to his brothers, tell our father that I will provide for you a location that you should be with you, your children should be with you, your grandchildren should be with you, your flocks, your herds, and all your possessions should be with you. Meaning, anything that's associated with Yaakov is under his protection. Anything which takes on an independent standing, then it's already going to be subject to something else. When Yaakov came to Egypt, you realize Yaakov himself is 130 years old. His children came Ito. His grandchildren came Ito. His granddaughters came Ito. There was nothing associated with him that was not Ito. We explained many times in Hebrew language, Ito means with him, and Imo means with him. It means the same thing. Ito, always the word S, there's no interpretation S. S always means it's an adjunct. Imo means it's the equal. With him means equal, independently equal, but not secondary. When Yaakov came to Egypt, he understood, and this is where he raised his family, everything that he was associated with, that was related to him, was secondary to him. Everything, he did not lose sight of every moment of every one of his family's lives. They were under his supervision. Because understanding the pitfalls of life and the influences of life, especially going to Egypt or Canaan, wherever they were, everything for Yaakov was ito, everything was secondary to him, meaning that he oversaw all their development and their environment, their upbringing, because if it would have been differently, there wouldn't have been a Jewish people. Over here the Torah says, it could have said, these names of Israel, it's Abba Mitzrayim, Yaakov, Ishu Beisu Bonov. What's the Ace Yaakov? Again, the Torah over here is re-emphasizing the point Ace. Everything was secondary. Ace Yaakov, Ishu Beisu Bo. Everything was secondary to Yaakov when they came to Egypt. And therefore, the moment Yaakov passes away, what happens? And that's last week's reading. Parsha was Parsha Stuma. The moment Yaakov passes away, immediately, Nisnu Eneim V'Libim M'nei Tzaras HaShibud. Their eyes and their hearts started to be sealed. There was a certain degree of insensitivity where the impurity of Egypt started to seep in to their souls, so to say, that it had some negative effect. Because Yaakov, the ace Yaakov, was no longer there, that they were secondary to Yaakov.